Let's get started. Let's see. The last week for me has been mostly reviews, and I posted a version of that PR that should fix the logical pin race. Chen Mei, how's it going?
Provided PR for the heartbeat blank IP fixed. So that is because the Ceph inter-solid test the Ceph.config file not set the public IP address and cluster IP address.
I'm
So
sorry,
I
Chen Mei.
will.
I was muted that whole time. That's my fault. If you could start over, that'd be good. Sorry.
Oh, I just fixed the heartbeat blank IP issue. So the reason is that in to-solid test, the ceph.config file not set the cluster IP address and the public IP address, just set the monitor host address. And in this case, the Crimson OSD at the beginning, the Crimson OSD set the heartbeat front and back address it get 0, the blank IP. And when sent the information to the monitor, it didn't check the heartbeat IP if it is blank. But the classic OSD do this check. If it is blank IP, it will use the public IP to set it. The public IP will learn from the monitor, communicate with the monitor. So I just fix it and like the classical OSD did. So that's all.
Cool. Matan?
Hey, I'm still working on the Messenger unit test. I think I made a progress preparing the test. I sent a mail to Inchin verifying that if he has any suggestion for the implementation, and that's it for me.
Okay.
Uh,
Ronan.
I will take a look later. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Inchin.
Cool. Ronan, how's it going?
Hi, nothing directly crimson for me this week, but I'm starting to work on it.
Srinivasa, how's it going?
Hey, I just tried to install with the Rook with the cluster, but unfortunately it's like a downstream way installed. So I just sync up with Radic and got the input. I'm proceeding with that. Most probably by next week it will be like with the Crimson build it will be up, and then I'll start my test.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Joyhan?
Last week, I first did some performance analysis for the implementation of the Sprite LFS strategy. I just pasted the URL in the chat window. And after that, I did some profiling for Crimson and SeaStore, and the result is here. Also, I pasted in the chat window. I think I made 4 observations. The first is that during the profiling, it seems that a significant amount of CPU time was occupied by LBA tree searches caused by logical address allocation collision. So I implement some optimization for it and submitted the corresponding PR. The second observation is that after I made the first optimization, I can see that the LBA tree search time is still occupying significant CPU resources. I think, and they are almost all caused by trying to load OMAP extents or ONODE extents. So it seems that every ONODE or OMAP extents load will have to go through a full-scale LVA tree search. I think these searches I think will happen even if the target logical extent is already in cache. So I think maybe we can let the parent logical nodes to hold pointers to their children if those children are already in cache. So we can find or load the logical extents following those pointers instead of going through the LBA tree. I don't know if this is feasible.
It's possible, but it's very complicated. It's because of the way we do invalidation. When we're doing mutations, we keep like projected versions of the extents attached to the transaction and then add them into the cache at the end.
Yeah.
So it's more complicated than it seems. But it's not impossible. It's a thing we may look into in the future. I think a simpler solution would be to cache nodes.
Cache nodes.
Yeah.
I don't quite follow. Even if we cache all nodes, we still have to go through the LBA search to find that node, right?
No, we can cache the O node. Well, maybe.
Oh, I get you.
Like directly by H object. Yeah.
So we don't have to go through O node tree search to find an O node, right?
Correct. In the immediate term, though, I think the strategy should be to take this opportunity to optimize the LBA and O node tree lookups. We need to optimize them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do want to start looking into ways of doing the logical of adding that kind of logical address caching, just keep in mind cache transaction invalidation. That's the hard part. So any strategy there needs to interact correctly with that and not require and be maintainable and not complicated.
Oh yes. The third observation is that almost 30% of the CPU time is occupied by OMAP-related operations, and I think those operations are caused by writing PG-info and PG-log.
Yep.
Yeah, but this doesn't seem to be our focus now. So
yeah, to give some context, this is a problem in BlueStore too. In both BlueStore, so we need to keep a record of recent operations for reasons I'm not going to get into right now, but it's part of how peering works. They have to be committed atomically with the actual mutation to make recovery work correctly. The way we currently do that is we store each log entry as an OMAP entry on a special PG log object for each PG. But as Weihan is observing, this means that we have to do OMAP operations for every I/O, whether they involve the OMAP or not. It's convenient, but not enormously efficient. Even in BlueStore, it causes quite a bit of RocksDB overhead. And they've had to do quite a bit of optimization there to make it behave better. We didn't actually always do it this way. Before I integrated LevelDB to use for RGW, we used to just write the log entries directly to the binary payload of a sequence of 4 megabyte objects. And then we just delete the objects behind us as we trim the log. We could go back to a strategy like that, or we could use an object as a ring buffer. But right now, I'm not as worried about this because it's fundamentally not SeaStore's problem. It's a problem that would need to be changed in Crimson OSD and Classic OSD.
Yes.
So we can worry about that orthogonally.
Okay. The final observation is that it seems that GC speed is causing performance degradation. The observation is like this: before the available space ratio hard limit is reached, I got nearly 3,000 IOPS, and after that threshold is reached, I can only get about 1,500 IOPS. And in the flame graph, we can see that about 30% of the CPU time is occupied by various polls and mostly AIO polls. So I think this should be caused by client IOs waiting for GC to reclaim disk space. So I think maybe increase GC speed may give a better performance.
Yes, and that will in general be true. By design, SeaStore will always be bounded in speed by the garbage collector. What you're observing with the 3000 IOPS is a regime where we're not doing all of the work associated with the client I/O. We're kind of building it up. Then we eventually hit the hard limit, and we have to be honest. We have to do work at the same rate that work comes in.
Yes.
So generally speaking, in order to behave better under saturated load, we will always need to work on garbage collector performance. The flip side of this is that we have done very little work on garbage collector performance so far, so that's probably the next place we need to look. And I think the Sprite LFS strategy work is the correct first step.
Okay. That's all my work this week.
Cool.
That's all.
Yingjin, how's it going?
Last week I did some reload bench tests to the journal correlation feature, and I'm also working on refining the metrics here. It's majorly about differentiate the cleaner trim and reclaim transactions, and from the tests, currently by running to 200 seconds, most cleaner works are still journal trimming, and journal reclaim doesn't trigger it yet. So it is, even with trimming, the cleaner overhead is still very large. And the second refinement is to measure the number of conflicting transactions by the source pair, so that we can know the exact number about how conflict is happening. So it's still some of the observation that the cleaning transactions have some conflict with mutate and read sections. So that's all for me.
Cool. I owe you reviews on the merges. I will try to get to those this week. I looked over them briefly, they looked reasonable. I just need to do the review for real. Sorry about that. I've gotten behind. Let's see. Bookkeeping, I am out starting next week through January 3rd. I'll be back again on January 4th. I'll be accessible over email intermittently, though. Do we have anything else to talk about? Anyone else have any topics to bring up? Did I miss anyone? All right, guys, I don't hear from you. Have a good end of your holiday, etc. Later.
See you all.
Thank you. Wish you the same.